Chapter 52. The Time Lord opened his arms wide. "Shall we?" Indigo lightning crackled in the heavens, shimmering upon the motionless golden army. There was no thunder, only the faint scent of burnt ozone in the atmosphere, which, followed by stray blue smoke, as the shipwrecked crew of the Vercingetorix stared at him. Without waiting for an answer, Mr. Blue spun, straightened his tie, and began walking toward the gold rapids.
"Is that a good idea?"
Sully asked the holographic projection of Saber. Of course not. But the man's getting results. Saber was typing on her psychic glass once more, which, to Sully, appeared for all the world like she was stabbing her finger repeatedly on a slim piece of clear plastic. Pilot Samran started after the stranger in the blue suit. He was fiddling with his watch again. Navigator Denry followed after prompting from Dr. Jones. The captain took his wife's hand, having given up trying to understand the situation. "What are you doing?" Saber's wavy green ghost looked up from her typing. She shouted once more, "What are you doing?" After the unpredictable Time Lord, her way of asking was both musical and accusatory. Mr. Blue began walking toward the army, holding above his head his time watch. It was emitting a throbbing, piercing, strobing light at the gold rapids. The soldiers of the gold stepped aside for the Time Lord, one by one.
"I'll be damned."
Sully took off his glasses. The image of the beautiful time agent standing beside him sighed. "And to clarify, good idea or not, it's not like you can stop him." The retired Commodore nodded.
"You're his guardian angel, then? His ex machina?"
Saber laughed at this. A good, sweet, heartfelt laugh which infected Sully, causing a smile. "No, I'm his guide. In a way. In most other ways, I'm basically his handler. You know, you were military. I'm sure you understand the term."
"I do, lass. You do what? Give him his assignments?"
Saber considered for a moment, then smiled very cryptically. "Yes, if you like." Her holographic image vanished. Sully stood by himself for a moment, then looked up to see Mr. Blue and his entourage had made a bit of room through the army.
"I'll be damned,"
Sully repeated privately.
"I want your opinion on this."
Mr. Blue looked over at Ruckus. The silver humanoid stood out amidst a sea of gold, pulsing light from the Time Lord's temporal wrist device, reflecting on him like a beacon. Ruckus sputtered out of the random sounds and mathematical formula. There was also some shouting and possibly obscenities, all garbled in unintelligible mess.
"Come now, here's your big boy words, mates. You have to act as one, Ruckus. All of you."
That sentence made no sense whatsoever, Navigator Denry pointed out.
"Your face doesn't even make sense,"
Mr. Blue cleverly retorted.
"These beings are completely artificial,"
Ruckus intoned with a deep, resonating hum.
"More specifically, please,"
Mr. Blue said. Ruckus obliged.
"The Golden Rapids are not silicone-based life form, nor are they sentient. These rapids truly are robots, silicone robots with a semblance of hive mind activity due to a central control grid. Their design and implementation is crude compared to our actual biological form."
The Time Lord smirked.
"You would say that. Now we're getting somewhere. Continue."
As the silver humanoid named Ruckus was explaining, Sully, and indeed the crew of the Vercingetorix, couldn't help but drown out the technical minutiae that the silver man and the alien were waxing intellectual about, to notice that they were being engulfed by this golden army. Every single soldier looked identical. They reformed their ranks as soon as the Time Lord and his group had gone by. For a panicked moment, Sully considered that they were completely surrounded by hundreds of thousands of these things, swallowed whole. He had no bearing of where the hell he was, and no idea what to do if these golden soldiers suddenly switched on. Purple lightning struck overhead, making the retired Commodore wince. No thunder, no rain, just this insistent, violent lightning and the strobing of Mr. Blue's watch.
"So where are we going?"
the captain asked.
"You said you wanted to help stop the second wave of the attack, as do I. So, we are going to their command center. Weren't you listening to me and Ruckus for the last 5 minutes?"
"No."
"Ah, well, fair enough."
"You have terrible grammar," Dr. Jones said. The Time Lord smiled.
"Thank you."
It had taken some time, but the group had made their way back through an ocean of gold to one of the nearby mountains, a craggy, forlorn, and dark place. Sully inwardly felt a surge of relief to be on the other side of the gold rapids. By the body language of the rest of the crew, he was guessing they were all feeling a bit vulnerable and claustrophobic. Mr. Blue turned off the vaguely hypnotic blue pulsing light of his watch, adding a bit more relief. Now they were safe. Well, Sully looked around. Safer, he thought to himself as he took the rugged mountainside before them.
"Nothing but sheer rock here, man."
Navigator Denry looked up nervously. "Must be, 300 meters or so up there? Oh no, are you for real?" Pilot Samran shielded her eyes from violet lightning. "I hate climbing." Dr. Jones crossed her arms.
"How far is it up there, Ruckus?"
Mr. Blue asked.
391 meters,
the Silver Man stated.
"It is that far up there,"
the Time Lord said. He looked around.
"Apologies, if that disappoints you."
The entire group became enamored of groans and complaints, whines and chagrins, as they stared up at the far top of the mountain, at purple lightning and distant, hazy blue smoke.
"Good Lord Almighty, I hate climbing,"
Sully unashamedly bitched.
"Ever since boot camp." "Okay,"
Mr. Blue said. The captain sighed and stared at his crew.
"If it's 391 meters, then it's 391 meters." "It is,"
Mr. Blue said. More groaning. More sighs. More eye rolls.
"I don't like it any more than you do."
The captain had both his hands in the air.
"Nevertheless, it is what it is."
Pilot Samran looked around. "What are we supposed to use?" "Probably just standard survival line and we'll figure it out, correct?" Navigator Denry looked at the Time Lord in the cobalt suit hopefully. Mr. Blue's eyebrows met.
"I suppose we will?"
Sully looked at Mr. Blue and put a hand on his shoulder.
"You have my back for this, right? All the way? You won't let me fall?"
Now, the platinum-haired Time Lord looked thoroughly confused, staring at Sully's legs.
I suppose. Is there anything wrong with your legs, Sully?"
The retired Commodore shrugged.
"Don't think so, except for the trick knee and the bad hip. Why?"
The captain grew impatient. "Look, I'm going to go ahead and start. All of you follow my lead." He gripped a nearby rock, planted a foot, and drove upward. Navigator Denry followed. The pair aided Dr. Jones and Samran up to the next boulder, where they all looked upward. They began grasping for handholds, struggling to climb upward. The captain and Navigator Denry withdrew some high tensile strength line from their belts, part of the standard survival gear and their Atmos uniforms. They connected this to the line from Dr. Jones and Samran, forming a web. Sully watched the captain struggle to embed a small steel spike into the rock face, then walked toward the climbing group. Mr. Blue stood below and watched for several moments. Then he shouted,
"Oi! What are you lot doing?"
The captain, bewildered, looked down at the 12 feet they'd made it so far and shouted back at the strange traveler in the blue suit.
"You said it was 391 meters."
Mr. Blue tilted his head back at Ruckus, then looked back up at the captain.
"Because you asked. When did I ever say we were going to climb?"
Wait, what? Navigator Denry was very interested in not climbing. The captain stared down, irritated.
"Are you serious?"
Mr. Blue shook his head.
391 meters straight up? You thought that was my suggestion? Look, the door's right here."
He blasted the nearby rock face with a single Arctic-colored beam. The crew stared in disbelief as the rock vanished into a shimmer to reveal a metallic wall. Mr. Blue pressed a hand on a nearby panel, causing the heavy steel to withdraw and open into the mountainside. The Time Lord grinned sheepishly.
Yeah, I hate rock climbing. Why would any of you think I wanted to do rock climbing?
Dr. Jones grinned.
Thank God. That works. That works for me.
Navigator Denry couldn't get out of his gear fast enough, nor could Samran.
What a horse's ass,
Sully grumbled. The Time Lord waved and disappeared inside.